duty stations do you want? My number one pick was actually Korea, because I wanted to come to Korea. My grandfather fought here in the war. The people in Korea, friendly, a culture shock type thing. You go into a restaurant here, put your cell phone, put your notebook, put your backpack, and walk away. When I told them I was going to Korea, they're like, oh, that's cool. I actually, when you join the military, they want you to put the locations that you want to go. So which duty stations do you want? And for me, my number one pick was actually Korea, because I wanted to come to Korea. My grandfather fought here in the war. No, maybe more so now, since Korea is a lot more prevalent in the American entertainment industry, especially with like your K-pops. Americans are finally starting to realize that LG, Samsung, and stuff like that is actually Korean.
Yeah.
So now that they're realizing a lot of that stuff, they're like, oh, all this stuff that I really liked, it's not Japanese, it's Korean. That's awesome. A lot of people are realizing that Korea actually has a whole lot to offer. Americans kind of look like this, so we don't really know that there's these big differences. Yeah, it was because of my grandfather. I really wanted to come here because my grandfather fought here in the war. He was fighting in some like major battles where thousands and thousands of people ended up dying. What really kind of led me to want to come here. I wanted to see what some of the places he might have seen and visit some of the places he might have visited. He was talking about this one where they were doing artillery and they basically blew off something like several feet off the top of the mountain with artillery, just trying to fight against the Chinese invaders and the North Koreans and stuff like that. Most of the stuff is really sad, like brutal stuff. So basically, he was part of the push from Busan all the way up, because that was, I believe, 1953.
1953.
Yeah. So he basically started in the war when it was at the height of everything, when it was at its worst, and basically every serious major battle that was fought here during that time, my grandfather was part of. He didn't like talking a lot about it. It's one of the reasons he never wanted to come back to Korea and stuff like that, is because he was here during the worst part of the war. Well, that was basically just war stories. He was talking about the war, so for him it was more of a PTSD, a traumatic experience for him. But me, I knew that Korea had, I mean, it's not a third world country in any way, shape, or form. It's a first world country. It's a major player, and it was my opportunity to learn more, because I was an ignorant American, like a lot of Americans, and so I wanted to learn more. I didn't know, and I wanted to learn. I wanted to make my own opinions, my own judgments. I knew very little. In fact, I was just like a lot of Americans. I thought Samsung and LG was Japanese until I came here and found out they were Korean.
I was just surprised he knows a lot of Korean companies better than me. That's why I was surprised.
I knew that a lot of the technology that was out there at the time was also made in this part of the world. I didn't really know that a lot of it actually coming from here. But it was. And I remember buying, I think it was an LG TV when flat screens that first came out.
Yeah.
It kind of came here before it was really in the States. And I remember buying a flat screen TV for, what was it, Sashipman. And it was a tiny TV, it was only this big. But it was just first came out. And I actually had that TV up until maybe 5 years ago, actually. I bought that TV here for Sashipman, but in the United States for the exact same size, but the only difference was the plug, would have cost you about eBay. And that was all stuff coming from here. The whole time I was kind of like, I want to go back to Korea. What's the best way to get back there? And eventually I was like, oh, becoming an English teacher is probably gonna be the best way to get back there. Well, I've always told people at home, there's two cities I like in this world, Phoenix and Seoul. I actually like Daegu too now. I enjoyed the food, the people. I think the biggest thing, even more than the food, was the people. Because the people in Korea tend to be quite friendly. And a lot of them will try to speak English with you too. So even if you don't speak a lick of Korean, although I do recommend at least learning the written language, because that'll help you a lot, and it's not hard. Everybody speaks at least a little bit of English, and even Harmony
할머니.
selling the
Yeah.
little trinkets
Yeah.
is going to speak at least a little bit
Yeah.
to help you out. They're very, very welcoming
Yeah.
and friendly. And I think the biggest thing for me, and this is a kind of like a culture shock type thing, you go into a restaurant here, you set your purse, and it could be like a super expensive purse. It could be a Coach,
Yeah.
like a purse that costs,
Gucci, yeah.
oh shit, ma. And you set it on the table and then walk away.
Yeah. And sell
Don't do that in the US.
notebook.
Put your cell phone, put your notebook, put your backpack, and walk away. I mean, you leave your card
Yeah.
by accident. 3 days later, you can go back and your card will be
Yeah.
sitting there waiting for you. That actually happened just recently.
Yeah. He lost his credit card, but just to keep that same place.
You go in the US, even in the safer areas, you would never leave your bag on it.
Korean people always 빨리. Yeah. Say something.
I always have to chun. Say, you were with your mom. Chun. Yeah, a lot of people here are definitely smarter on average here. Education is given a lot higher priority. Where I went to school, it was actually 50 of 50 of the worst school systems in the country. So the education system was just atrocious. What I learned at a different state, which had a much higher education system, middle school, is what they were doing in high school down in the state that I was actually finished at. And so the education system is not focused on, a lot of what they focus on in America is more of freedom of choice and decisions, even at a younger age. So they want you to make up your own minds about where you want to go, but in Asian culture, especially here in Korea, it's a heavy focus on you need to prepare for your future and be ready for your future and be educated. And so it's a completely different mindset between the East and the West when it comes to that.